What's up, everybody? Ignay here. We got a podcast for you. This one's going to be an interesting one. I'm literally going to title it "Everything and the Kitchen Sink" because we went into everything from ants game to politics to world things that are going on. It was a great one. So here we go. All right, Ignay here, and we got another podcast going on. We got Cash and Steppenwolf here, and we're going to get into another podcast and chat with them. Before we get into that, you shenanigans. This video is sponsored by AppCoins. We're using my code IGNATA. You can get anywhere from 5 to 65% off all in-game purchases. It's a great way to save a little bit of money. I'm not going to keep blabbing about it. The whole description of how to do so will be down in the description down below, as well as Discord links and stuff. If you're interested in doing a podcast, hit me up on there, and we'll get right into it. Steppenwolf and Cash, y'all want to introduce yourself?
I'll start. I'm Steppenwolf, also known as Snoopy, and sometimes Peter Pan, from the 701 level. Anyway, I don't know much else to start out with.
I'm kashdoll. I'm known as Peekaboo in the game, and yeah.
All right. Well, let's keep flowing. We were talking about like White Velvet and the switch from Universal from what it was before.
Right. Well, we were talking about the problems they had in the beginning,
right?
With it, and why it ended up being a problem, and with some coding issues. So, but basically, so nobody uses that anymore. What was so the next great ant to pay ant was Laffy, right?
Yes, that was when it really started. Well, it started out as a problem, and we were talking about like the gateways that they were doing, and when I started noticing it was when you were buying these new ants, they were like super fucking strong, nobody could beat you type thing, and then like 2 weeks after it fell out of cycle, they weren't all that great.
Right.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
Yeah, and they've done that a lot now. The other big issue is when, like with the insects and shit, when they come out with a new status effect and shit, and they still do that to this day, to where they start out like super fucking amazing. They've started to slow that down a bit, which is good. But they start out super fucking amazing, and then 2 weeks later they fall off, and you're back to using something else.
And then now every season that's new comes up with new ones, and those end up being the ones everybody needs because they're ones.
Yeah, and it seems like only certain people can get them. For some of the people who can't buy them and spend all that money, they don't. And then the people who do, it's like they're really strong.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, I mean, then they're trying to force you to buy the 600 fucking eggs to be able to.
It's all the mutations in the background that really makes things powerful.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm not gonna lie. I've been slacking on. I've been trying not to spend as much, so I don't buy any mutation packs or anything like that anymore. Because you could just dump fucking tens of thousands into that shit.
Oh, absolutely. I started focusing more on that because I had not focused on it, but now I'm at a point where I'm ready to slow it down and just do what I'm doing because I'm as powerful as I need to be. But I do still buy certain things. I don't want to buy any more pay ants because the reason I don't want to buy any more pay ants is partly because the new ones come out that are from the season and they're just as good. I got plenty of ants. What do I need more ants for? And when you buy the pay ones, it definitely means you have to then support it by buying more. You got to get if you want to, however much you want to get it all the way up or not. And then you also have the Daisy game to get the awakening. So it just becomes a sinkhole for the money. I don't know if I would buy another insect other than a carrier for my class. That's probably the only other insect I would buy. And as crazy as it sounds, I'd rather buy another hill skin if I like it, because that's an aspect I love about the game. I love the cuteness,
the aesthetics.
I love I love that. My main, no matter, I use a lot of, I have a lot of gold skins I use. I love them all, most of them, at least some more than others. But I still find that I always go back to that green bunny.
Yeah.
That's still my all-time favorite. I like the little tiki pirate, and I like that.
May I say something? What I heard on the Sky Channel, like from this guy who's like a big whale account, he says you shouldn't waste your money on skins. You should like spend your money if you're gonna do it and want to become a whale fast, where you don't have to spend as much. He says buying insects and the ants and the power-ups with that
Well,
would help.
yeah,
Well,
I
I
mean,
agree with it.
I've said that on this channel as well. Yeah, that's obviously the way to be able to increase your strength the most. But to be honest, and Steppenwolf kind of approach on this, the mutations are actually the best way, because you can then, even if there is a new paid insect or paid ant and stuff, this is kind of what I do, because my mutations are pretty good. Even I've stopped spending on them. They're pretty good. I'll go like a month and a half, and then I'll buy like one thing. I'll spend a couple $100 to buy one thing to stay just as competitive as my account always has been because of that. So yes, in a short-term sense, yes, to increase your strength, absolutely, you want to be doing that. But if your long-term goal is to not spend as much into the game, then you want to be going into mutation.
Right. The only part about the skins where I would disagree, the whale, the type of character that saying don't buy them, is right, but he or she's coming from the point of view of just being powerful, and that's not the only reason I play the game. It's the cute factor, the fun, I love the marches. I like being able to change skins. I love the new effect for
Right.
teleport. But I'm
Yeah.
not. My game isn't all about being the most powerful player, because the other thing to say is, no matter what, the most important thing on the events is having players show up and fielding more players than the other team, really.
And having fun, which
And having
again,
fun. Yeah.
and that does come down to a difference of opinion too when you play any of these type of games, because it's like, okay, what do you do to have fun? Like you said, you like the aesthetics and stuff like that. For me, I'm a very competitive person, so I like that power. I like that feeling of destroying enemies, having fun with my family, joking around, So it does come down to like a difference of opinion of how you want to play and such. Which, if you're having fun, if you're liking what you're liking, who the fuck is anybody to say anything about it?
True.
Right.
So
I,
yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
no, I just like to tell people, don't do what I do. Don't do what I do, or don't feel you have to do what I do, because you can spend nothing on the game, or you can spend a little bit on the game and still build a really good hill and have a lot of fun.
Right.
The issue I'm having with the game kind of is everyone's saying everything, and I don't know what to believe, like is factual or like what works for some people and doesn't work for others,
Well, that's why you follow my channel, damn it.
Yeah, but everyone in my alliance is telling me stuff, and then I do it, and then this one person says, no, you did that wrong, now you fucked up your account, and I'm like, okay, so what do I do?
You just have to watch my channel. I'll lay it out plain and simple.
I've heard people think they know what they're talking about and be absolutely wrong. I have seen people say stuff.
Yes, and it gets so irritating, and then I get people who are so competitive and yelling at me, and I'm like, you're making this game unfun. Like, can you shut up?
Well, they do have a block button.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes I say, pull the stick from your ass to them
Yeah,
when they really
that works
piss me
too.
off.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think I'm kind of blessed, to be honest, because I have a group of family, and man, we go wild in our fucking alliance chat. Like people saw, we'd have fucking bans and mutes left and right if people saw our alliance chat because we're in there fucking around. We're talking politics, religion, freaking saying dirty jokes and just fucking
Oh
around.
my gosh, that's our alliance too. I remember
but
one person talked about. Oh my gosh, I started laughing. He talked about starting the OnlyFans because for how expensive the game is. Well, I said you better make sure you do a penis extender to make sure you have a big wiener.
We have a standing joke around Ash that I have an OnlyAns account, and that's why I'm able to afford the game that I just sell feet pick on.
This feet pick thing seems to be across the board in the game.
Hey, it's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yes, and we always joke in our alliance too. We get banned too, some of us. I got banned a couple times for saying that stuff.
Yeah, but that's why, like for me, that's my enjoyment in the game is my family
Joking
that I'm
around
with.
and having fun. That's my enjoyment
Yeah,
too.
yeah, and at the same time, we're all giving it our all. We're all having fun. We're trying to get to, the objective, the tree, whatever the fuck it is. But we're just having fun doing it. It's like, well, if we don't fucking make it, whatever, you know.
Yeah, I wish some people in my alliance were more like that. Some of them throw a big fit about it.
I mean, you're not going to win every time. It's
I know.
statistically impossible.
My alliance in my main game on 527 is kind of sedate and boring to some degree, yes, in the chat. And so my 701 in uh that is completely different. That is a group of people that I've played with since I started that predominantly. Players from 716 and 725, I think. And it's like a little family, and everybody jokes around. I wish we could merge everything. I wish I just long for the day. I feel like they're keeping group 1 and 2 in the dungeon.
Oh yeah, we've been in the dungeon for a while.
It's like, are they afraid we're going to get out there and tear the place apart with our old bad nature?
Well, no, actually, it's a lot different than that. What's going on is the newer servers are they like their packs and shit like that are so much cheaper than ours. So we're actually way behind because we don't have as many whales and stuff like that. The newer servers would rip us apart. And I think that's why they're keeping us in the dungeon because they still charge us that increased pack price.
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
I've seen this from personal experience. I've been helping someone who's building a hill on 13 in the 1300s. And yes, I definitely have seen that across the board going up, that it's gotten cheaper and easier to become a whale.
Mm-hmm. Which is kind of unfair, to be honest, because like I mean I obviously I talk to people from across the board with the game, and I've been here since the beginning, and people were like, oh yeah, that ant or that insect cost me like $50. I'm like, what? I've spent hundreds and hundreds on this same shit.
Yeah. The expensive one I spent was like to get it was like $700.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and in that same instance, like for instance, the particular instance I'll use is somebody, I think from the 1200s. They had bought the new ant all the way up to 8-star for like $150.
The
And
fuck,
for me, it was like $900.
Yeah. But I do hear from a couple of people, sources I know, rumor. Nothing has ever been said for sure, but I am hearing the rumor that they will open it up eventually. They're just not ready yet.
The fuck they are. There's some of the motherfuckers that are stronger than me.
I know.
It's
I
about
For a
damn
tenth of
time.
the price.
I know what you guys are talking about with the newer servers. I've seen those people like have like a lot of points and all that shit, and they're strong as fuck. We faced them a couple times, and we actually quit the VAT jungle because of that. Because we were facing a new server, and it was like impossible.
Well, I kept telling them over and over again they'd make more money if they lowered the pack prices because quantity, you sell more, you make more money nickel and diming people. I would love the company to hire me and start up a marketing for outside sales of stuff.
They're Chinese. They ain't gonna do that shit.
I know, but they could do it. It would be great. But I get it.
Right.
I had this conversation with my friend that I don't want to say, but he left because he didn't agree with the way they were going after the money, and he didn't like what they were doing with back-to-back events. He felt they were overworking everybody. He felt they were putting too much in the game and just wearing people out, which I think he's right about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that the events have become the way the game is, and I don't think that's as much of a problem as it was when it first started.
Yeah,
But
well, yeah. I mean, and I agree, honestly. Like the back-to-back events, not only with paid events, but then also with the islands and shit. It's like it does get overwhelming at times, and I know some people like that and shit. But like for me, like with my alliance, my account has to be active, like the entire fucking island, for us to do anything. So that's like it's such a time drain for that it has to be there. It has to be there, you know.
Mhm.
And then we got back to back fucking pay, which I don't buy a lot of them. Like I said, it's like once a month I'll buy something, but regardless, it's just that a fucking time. And now they have all these events that are on the server, like the Agami and then the new frilled lizard thing and all this other crap. I'm like, I get that they're trying to make it so that people spend more time because they get the majority of their money from the actual time for using the app. But at the same time, it's just like it's overwhelming. Yeah, it's overwhelming for casual players.
They need to understand. Someone should. I don't know if they're capable of understanding this because of what we're saying, the different way they're thinking, being Chinese or whatever. I hate to say that, but anyway.
You're not wrong.
Just as in a movie, okay? You guys are from. I know you may be familiar with Alfred Hitchcock, and he and this would work the same way in a game. He had a theory that he used, which was based on roller coaster theory of how you pace the roller coaster, going up. So you have the moments where it's thrilling and then the slow down, the ratchet up, and then you go back again. And so he came up with this idea of his movie had to have that flow. So you didn't wear the person out. They could enjoy the whole thing. They had those lulls, which would make the highs more fun. And in this game, there's certain things in this game I don't even bother with anymore. I'll tell you the number one thing. I go over and do it if I can. If I have time, I do it a little bit. But that's the rainbow lizard thingy.
Yeah, the Agami. Yeah, that's the same with me.
I don't remember the name of it. And it's one of those things.
I don't even do the rainbow lizard thing. It's too much.
I do one hit on it on the day that the day before the tree fucking opens, because that's back to like what my normal setup is anyway. So I'll do one hit just for the free exotic, and that's it.
Yeah, well, that's the same thing. Once you have the exotic side for that round, then the other side's really not that. That's really, there's a lot of things in this game. If you look at who's hitting at the top of that of the leaderboard on that, like the Agami, you will
Mm-hmm.
see who are the most egotistical players who have to be at the top. They will
Right.
go their way to be on that so they can say, look, I'm at the top.
I'm
And
king shit.
I don't care about that. The
Me neither.
Pango is one of those things where if I do it more now, it's for my team because I'm the most powerful player, and so I'm trying to make sure we're up high enough. I'm trying to help out. But
See, I don't mind the Pango because like it's also a way of kind of like being able for me to be able to test things. So I don't mind doing the Pango, and I think that's okay. It's just all the other shit that's like for instance with that Agami thing, if they line it up with the same days as like Pango, I could see a lot more people doing it because it's like, well, fuck it, I'm already here. I'm already set up for it.
Yeah.
But it's just fucking useless. And then you have this frilled lizard thing that's just like throw as much shit at it as you can for 30 fucking minutes.
For the longest time with the Pango, I would not rally it, and many players that were my friends would go, you can get more if you rallied it, you can get more if you rallied it. I go, I don't care. I'm not going to change my lineup out. I have a PvP lineup in. I'm going to hit this thing, get the rewards I'm going to get. I can already tell that I'm hitting it. I'm getting, I'm going to get one more. Maybe I'll get that one more level. Okay, I don't care. I am not about the PvE part of the game. I was about the PvP. Now I do tend to get more into the to the PvE part than I used to, but I have a lot more flexibility. You saw what I showed you, what my hill is.
Right.
I have all sorts of flexibility in that hill.
Yeah, for sure.
I actually never seen your hill.
Oh well, we'll show it. I'll show it off here soon.
Yeah, you can put it in the recording chat.
Yeah. So what anyway, what I hate about the like doing the pangolin is I hate having to change all the little details out in the hill for hitting it.
Oh yeah, that gets on my nerves. And then everyone in my alliance yells at me and bitches at me when I don't, and I'm like, here, if you guys want it done so bad, do it your damn self and leave me the fuck alone.
And that's where, like, if they extended out the whole preset thing, if they extended it out to also like include your reforms, your all your Warzone shit, all that, if they included that as well, so it's like a click of a button, that I think would make it a lot better too.
Like
for
preset?
So like you're saying all the shit that's inside your hill. So I mean, you change out like every pangolin, you're changing out your reforms, your Warzone attributes, your mutations for your special lands. If they had a preset for that, I think that would help out a lot with those things because that does get annoying. For me, the one thing that kind of helps me is that for instance, my shooter and guardian PvE is the same as my PvP. So, and I already have them in my lineup, so it's just a matter of switching those into my pro to be able to maximize the hit. And then carriers is like one ant off. So it's like that doesn't bother me as much. It's just all the other shit having to switch around for it. And it's just like ridiculous. It takes you like 15 minutes, which I know that sounds petty or whatever, but it takes you like 15 minutes to switch all this shit around. And then you turn around and got to switch it again for another fucking event on the same damn day.
And it gets pretty annoying, and I don't always have time to do that shit, and then I get bitched at for it. And I'm like,
why do
you guys not have lives? Like, how do you guys spend all this time switching shit around?
Why are they so mad when you don't do those things?
Because they're like, you're costing us points and all that stuff. And I'm like,
yes.
Is it that big of a fucking deal? Like, damn.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Like for us, we don't care about that aspect. It's just if you want to do it, you do it type thing. So what we have in our alliance is like we'll have the frilled lizard thing or fucking well, the restrained groundhog thing. It's like, okay, there are people that are going to want to do this event. So we're going to stop all the other activities, do the event, and then everybody goes back to does their own thing. We do not care about ranking. We do not care about anything. It's just a respect thing to the team, and it's a team event. So that's the aspect that we take on it. As far as like scoring and all that shit, we don't give a fuck.
I'm going to step away just for a second. I'll be right back.
Oh, you're good. Little pee break.
Yes. Yes.
But yeah, I mean that's how we are. I mean, because the alliance doesn't really get like
my
increased
alliance is
benefits for
starting
being
to get on
taller.
my nerves a little bit. Actually, my alliance. And sometimes I talk about leaving it, but then I'm like, nah, I should help my team out. Nah, because I have a couple of friends in there that make it worth to stay and all that.
Right.
Because Michna is pretty cool, and so is Death. And so are some of the other R4s. It's just some of the certain players that get on my goddamn nerves who don't know how to shut the fuck up.
I kind of feel bad because I played Death hard in our island. Because he won before we got into our fighting or whatever. He wanted to do test hits, and I don't like to show off what I got when I'm going to be fighting them later. So I had like nerfed my pro team so that we were pretty even, which I think gave a little bit of too much confidence when we actually got to fighting. Because then he was like, "Wait a second, you were running a guardian shooter." I was like, "Yeah, I was."
You nerfed your pro, what were you saying? You nerfed your pro unit?
Yeah, he wanted to do test hits before we actually got to like our actual fighting. So I don't like showing my trump card, I guess you could say. So I nerfed my pro down. So it was still strong. It just wasn't at its strongest when we did that. So we were pretty much on par. Which
how come I was testing a little bit? You had your pro so strong.
Well, that wasn't my pro when we did that.
Oh, that wasn't?
No, that was my nerf down version.
Well, goddamn, I still suck.
No, I do that. I do that usually like for the first beginning of Island. I'll nerf down my pro on purpose, and run a guardian shooter so that nobody has my true stats when it comes time to fight. Then I'll use my, my actual pro.
Would this be in the duels and stuff?
No, that's on Island because people always want to do like test hits and shit like that. So
right.
I never show my full strength until the very end.
That's good. That Jack would always say, don't show everything in the duel. Don't worry about it.
Right. Oh, it's the same thing in the mines and duels and shit. I don't. Those aren't my lineups I use.
Yeah.
Because I don't care. I don't care about getting first. I'll get my fucking crystals in the mines. But yeah, I do the same thing there. I never run what my actual pro is.
Okay, now I made the mistake of doing that. Now, should I stop doing that?
I mean, that's a personal decision. So for me, and like for Steppenwolf, because he's one of the biggest whales, and then like for me, because I'm a I hate to even say it because it sounds so fucking niche and uppity, but I'm a public image. I'm a public figure. So
right. Well, you are.
We get targeted a lot more, if that makes sense. So if we hide our actual strength, then it makes it easier, if that makes any sense.
Most people by duel think I'm a guardian main because I use my guardians, but I'm a carrier main. I'm a carrier. I have carrier.
Right.
I've run across a lot of people who were surprised when I got into fighting on an island. They went, "Well, I thought you were a guardian main from the duels." Nope. No.
It's the same for me. Most people think I'm a guardian shooter when I'm not. I'm a pure shooter.
Yeah. What's your feeling about using the guardian in front for the shooters? Because I'm not a shooter, so I'm a carrier first. I do use it some in my lineups, but
It's great, to be honest. Running Guardian Shooter is very viable. I made videos on it. It is most certainly viable. It gives you that, because obviously shooters have a lower health and they're more attack based. So that defense based with the Guardian does give you a little bit of buffer, especially when you're going up against like stronger enemies than you or on par enemies with you. It lets you be able to survive that first round or second round, and then really lay in the damage. It's all about your lineup. Guardian Shooter is very viable. I have ran Guardian Shooter for in the past, and when I bought the new Ant, the black velvet, that's when I really switched back to being a pure shooter. But no, it's very viable. Now running like a Guardian carrier doesn't work because of the combat speed difference. So that's kind of unfortunate that it doesn't really adjust for more of a differential, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I've never tried running a Guardian in front of my carriers, except on some hills that are really weak and don't have as much. It's just
right.
killing bugs because they're extra hills. I have 5 hills. I have
Jesus.
I have 5, and 2 of them are just extras. There's the farm and what I call my little victory hill, which held up that alliance I destroyed the shell of on 456 when we beat them finally and destroyed
I barely
the
have enough. I barely have enough time for 1 fucking hill. How the hell you got time for 5?
Well, I am
Hey, I only have 1.
I'm semi-retired. The game is a lot of what I do. The only thing I do is write with my friends. My friend that I work with on writing the scripts we're working on, the movie scripts, and I'm more the creative side. He writes the dialogue, so we talk about the structure of what we're writing, and then he goes off and writes it. I read it, and we discuss the changes. And I used to sell on eBay and other places all sorts of everything, collectibles, you name it. But at the moment, I'm not doing any of that. I'm probably going to start selling something. I'm going to start doing something here soon, but for quite a while, since around when COVID started, I went into like an early retirement. So I'll be 63 May 27th. Okay. So I can do it because of because of my
63?
age.
Really?
I'm 62.
Yeah, we're old.
Damn.
Yeah.
I thought you guys were like 30, 20,
No, we're old.
We just keep our there's a reason I on the 701 on the 700s I named myself Peter Pan. It started out as a joke for the very first island. I did a theme. I was Peter Pan and my alternate hill was Tinkerbell, and then I was trying to get a name away from Steppenwolf for that level, and I just started going with Peter Pan because I feel like I didn't ever want to grow up. Yes, I am an adult. I do adult. I can get into very adult thinking, but I like to think that youthful thinking more.
Right.
Oh, so, I'm only 23 though.
23, the magic number, the 23 enigma. You say 23, it's going to spark me off for a moment. Robert Anton Wilson.
Who?
The Cosmic Trigger. He was a writer. He wrote the Illuminati trilogy, and he wrote the Cosmic Trigger. And he talked a lot about. He was an expert in, the histories of conspiracies and theories and stuff like that in general. Illuminati stuff like that. He would talk a lot about Aleister Crowley,
so he believed in aliens.
The possibility of aliens more.
So do I.
He's more of a how did these conspiracy theories come about, and is there any probability of it type thing,
that's
more than actually believing it.
Yeah, it's more about discussing the aspects of it's studying conspiracy as a study rather than belief. It'd be like studying theology in general. You just study religions. He would say Robert Anton Wilson's line, which I don't think he invented it, but it was belief is the death of intelligence. And I kind of agree with this line, because once you believe in anything so wholeheartedly that becomes your core dogma religion, then you lose objectivity.
Right.
You have a little bit of doubt.
Right. Well, it's like, and I'll probably get shit for this, but I don't care. Like Graham Hancock with his theories and stuff. Like a lot of it was considered fringe, and he got shit on and all that. And he's like, "Look, I'm just telling you, there's the possibility."
Yeah.
And now, like a lot of what he was saying, like with the Younger Dryas period with Egypt and shit like that, is like, this is actually true. Like it's being proven this is true.
I think he's certainly more right than wrong. And
right. I mean, yeah, nobody's going to be fucking right 100% of the time, you know.
No.
But opening up your mind to this could possibly be a thing. Okay, let's jump into it. Let's see, is there any scientific proof to this? You know, and that way of thinking, I wish we had more of, because we need it. We really do need it.
Right.
It's just like with Gillespie Tepe. I don't know how much you know about that. I'm
fascinated.
With
I've watched a number of things on that. I'm
not
super expert on it, but I'm familiar with it.
So Gillespie Tepe is I think it's in Turkey, a stone structure that they found in Turkey that they uncovered that predates any known existence of human intelligence. And what they did is they wanted to keep it basically as a tourist site and didn't want to have any more archaeological digs on it, because it basically shits on everything that we've ever had as far as what we think history is. And so they started planting olive trees on it, which are sacred there and they can't be cut down or anything else like that, to be able to stop any archaeological digs. So we can't have any more discoveries, which right now I think they, don't quote me on this, I can't remember the exact numbers, but it's like they only uncovered like 3% of it.
I've heard this. I've heard there's a whole lot more that's not been dug up. Yeah.
And but it's like, this is our history. Like fucking, you know, these people were doing shit that we cannot do ourselves. I mean, like Gillespie Tepe, the stones, we do not have a vehicle strong enough to be able to carry those stones that were carried, obviously, from hundreds of thousands of miles away to this site. We don't have the capability today.
Yeah.
So how is it done? Like,
the stories of the people who supposedly built these things like Stonehenge and so forth, Gillespie Tepe, they did not, by anything that we know, have the ability to build this stuff.
Right. I mean, you can even go with the more classical one with Egypt. They're like, oh, you know, they used flays or they used boats that went up the Nile River, and it's like, kind of a bit of problem when we can't do that ourselves with machinery.
I don't want to say, but maybe they were a great deal smarter than us.
That's the possibility. But that's where I was leading back to, like with Graham Hancock, where he's like, something doesn't make sense here. There's got to be something we're missing. What it is, I don't know, but there's got to be something. Here's some theories.
Because when evolution evolves more, like people try to take easier ways out instead of doing the old-fashioned work.
Right, of course, and I mean,
trying to take shortcuts.
Well, and then, man, this is turning into a conspiracy theory podcast. I love it.
I was about to say you're gonna become the Joe Rogan of the
No, but I mean, then
have you done some smelling salts yet?
Hey, I have. But no, I mean, there's just shit that it's crazy, because, like, with, for instance, something that, okay, I'll take one that we have scientifically proven at this point in time, which is the Younger Dryas period. With that, there is, across the entire world, countries that have never had any contact with each other at all, they all have a great flood myth. Every one of them. Christianity, Japan, all of them do.
Yeah.
Countries that at that time had no contact with each other whatsoever. We also have evidence. What's that?
the Epic of Gilgamesh. There's one.
Yes. Yes.
That, yeah.
Yeah. So right there is like this is odd. So what happened? And then that's which Graham Hancock had gotten a lot of shit for, where he was like, I think that this is real. I think that there was a global cataclysmic event in the Younger Dryas period that fucking wiped out civilization. Just wiped it out and remade Earth as it is now. And for decades, he was getting so much shit about that because he's like, because he had put in there basically like, the stories of Atlantis might actually be true, and there is historical evidence of that across many different civilizations. So it might actually be true.
Noah's like Ark a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. That's the Great Flood.
Yeah. So why couldn't it have happened?
Well, and that's the thing now, is that when he was basically labeled as a fringe fucking scientist and shit, now we're getting the evidence that, you know what, he was right. There was some kind of cataclysmic event, which is now called the Younger Dryas period. So it's shit like that fucking fascinates me, and I hate that scientists and researchers and shit are just so fucking closed-minded that they can't go, okay, maybe let's look into it. It's like, no, it has to be this way.
Want facts. They don't want theories or anything. They just want facts-based evidence where they can prove that they're smarter than everyone else.
What they want to do is write a paper and be renowned and known for it, instead of fucking actually knowing what's going on or being proven wrong in any aspect or anything like that. It's just like with the fucking pyramids, where they just did LiDAR detection on there or whatever and found that there's we don't know what the fuck it is, massive structures underneath the fucking pyramids.
Oh yeah, I just saw that too.
Yeah.
A lot of scientists today, they're in this structure that, yes, they have to publish. They don't want to be proved wrong, so they don't want to ask the questions anymore that are the radical questions, or just sometimes you got to ask everything to get to the truth and to rethink.
So how can you call yourself a scientist when you won't open yourself to new facts and new theories?
Well, that's just it, and that's the problem with the scientific community as it's structured today. Because the problem with that is the only way that you get renowned and get grants and shit like that is if you have something that you found, for instance, like Göbekli Tepe and the Egyptiologists and shit like that. That's something they're like, no, it was like this, and they built it like this and that. They write a paper on it, they get renowned, they get fucking awards, they get prizes, yada yada yada. Then somebody else comes along and is like, I don't think that's correct. And so they're immediately shit on for having a different theory, because that'll take away the repetition and the funding for the person that made the quote unquote discovery first. And the entire system is fucked up.
Well,
it very much is fucked up.
It wasn't always quite as much like this, and I'll give an example from the Ivy League schools. When I was going in the 70s, I went to a boarding school in New Hampshire, a prep school. And I remember being taught, they would be telling us, look, we're teaching you to get ready to go into this. I was thinking of going to Dartmouth, and so they're saying the Ivy League school. So what we're going to be doing is you're going to get there and you're going to be having conversations that most people, if they heard, would think you're crazy. But in order to come to right answers, you have to ask all these different questions to rule everything. You have to put way outside the box and then put yourself back together so that you can get to the right answer. And now we've gotten to where everything's become, the science has become their religion, and so then they have their dogma, so you can't step on their dogma anymore without them getting upset.
Right, which I think is
just
I think it's just honestly sets us back. It as an evolutionary function of our society. Yeah, exactly. It sets us back. And then
And
then
that's why
like
I take the motto, I question everything and say why. And is there another way how we can do it? Which makes everyone annoyed with me and pisses people off. But I say, who gives a fuck? You guys can be
and see,
pissed by
and
yourself.
my thing too is like, I mean, I've already said I'm fascinated with ancient civilizations and shit like that.
Me
Just like
too.
the underground city that was discovered in fucking Turkey from somebody that was doing a addition on their fucking basement.
Oh,
And
and what
the
about the
city,
tribal people that live on this private island that's not too far from Snake Island? And people have actually tried to go there but been killed because they don't want people trespassing. And it's actually been, you can't go there and it's illegal to go there. You have to have like permission from Australia and Brazil, their government, in order to go on that island.
Which is this the
but
one
but
that'll kill you if you go onto the island?
yeah, they're cannibalistic. Yes.
Right.
I forget that famous dude that got ate by them.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
people,
can't think of his name.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm familiar with this.
Yeah. But yeah, no, my thing is like, like we should be broadening our horizon to allow the what if, like, you know, but let's figure out how this shit actually is. Like for Egypt, for instance, you are not even like you used to be able to climb the pyramids and shit like that. Fuck, even when we were kids, you were able to climb the pyramids. Now you can't. Everything, which they've limited down to fucking zero. Any archaeological exhuming or anything is limited by the Egyptian government. You cannot do anything. So we can't discover anything. And especially if somebody has a theory that goes against what they have set for their fucking tourism and shit like that, they're ostracized and immediately they lose all funding. So and then it's like Galepi Tepe where they put all the fucking goddamn olive trees on some bitch, and then like they won't exhume the pyramids um, in what is it, Argentina or Belize or whatever the fuck it is. That it's like, why? Like we, it's fascinating, and it'd be great to know our own planet's history.
Yeah,
And
but you guys say you guys want to figure out like what was Earth like before we came and what we were like. But when you guys do stuff that stops that, then you're not really wanting to know. You're just only wanting to know what you want to know and not the actual truth. You're just trying to theorize and put your truth into it.
right, well, and then you have fucking what is that, Pillar 51 or whatever the hell it is, that has languages from at that time period that were all over the world written on it. Aramaic, fucking
Which one are you talking about?
what is it, Pillar 51? Fuck.
About that,
I,
I watch
say
all
what now?
these YouTube videos about these places. I love watching it and
Oh,
learning about it.
I've recently seen a number of new pieces of writings that, and a couple that some I've never heard of, and some I've heard of, but they're getting more attention now. Yeah, I'm not quite familiar with that one. Or
yeah.
maybe
So I forget where exactly it is. I believe. Don't quote me on this. It's either in Afghanistan or it might be in Turkey again. But it's these pillars that have everything from hieroglyphs to Aramaic to languages that we have no idea. But the weird thing is that the ones we do know, are languages that should have never had contact with each other at all. And they're on this one, like, structures, stone pillars. They're out in the middle of fucking nowhere.
I know I saw.
What type of languages are they?
Say what now?
This is
What
like
type of languages are they?
So there's like Aramaic on there. There's Babylonian. There's Greek. There was I can't remember all of them. There's basically all corners of the world on these fucking pillars that predate anything that we know even exists. It like goes back to what is believed to be with like Galepi Tepe times. Shit that.
Oh wow! So is
Did
that BC before Christ or AD
way before.
before
You're
Christ?
you're talking thousands of years before.
Okay, so it's BC.
Yeah.
Cool. I always love this type of stuff.
Me too. But it's like, why aren't we fucking studying this shit?
Because
this is something we do not understand.
In the dark. It's kind of like with the government. They only want us to know what they want us to know. And if we find out more, they're gonna destroy it before people can find out more. Like they actually had a cure for cancer in the US government, but they had that person killed and the cure killed because they make profit off of people being sick.
Well, yeah, that's
that's a long rabbit hole for another.
That's a big fucking rabbit hole.
Let me tell you, I have dug into this area of viruses and cancers and cause and effect, and boy, this is going to take too long. We need.
Yeah. My phone doesn't have the capacity for that fucking recording.
Not right now. Another day. But no, the people don't want to have their illusions broken. I'm going to go to the moon landing, and
oh yeah, God.
When I was young, the first point at which I doubted it was somewhere around 12 or so. Now I saw it. My dad sat me down to watch it when I was about 7 when we landed on the moon, and I was just amazed.
Oh, I never seen that.
Yeah, so I was amazed. I wanted to, I was just 7. I didn't know. Well, what did I know? I'm 7. Well, we're landing on the moon. Cool. And then as I got a little older, the first thing that I started thinking about was our government would never chance a live disaster like that. So I started to not believe that the footage was. I didn't necessarily believe we didn't go. I just started to believe that footage was faked. Then, and I'm not going to go deep into whether or not we went or not because I'm not going to answer that. But what I will say is I have been a photographer since I was 10 or so. I mean, I've been involved in photography all my life. The footage, the pictures we've had taken with the cameras on the moon, no, if you look at the radiation, the heat on the moon, there's no way. I'm sorry. You can't convince me that we took pictures on the moon with the tech had, unless they had some alien technology to take pictures that we didn't know about. No.
And back then, technology wasn't that great.
That this is a fun rabbit hole to go down too.
But that doesn't mean we didn't go to the moon. I'm only stating one thing. The footage is not
might be fabricated and overzealous.
Right.
Well, you have more. This is a fun rabbit hole. I do think that we have gone to the moon. However, there's so many geopolitical things that were going on at the time with the space race with Russia, and they were out advancing us. Then we had the problem of the Kepler belt and all that. With technology, how it was then is kind of like I don't know, but
I lean on that we went to the moon, but the story of how we went to the moon and who went to the moon is not the truth.
Correct. I'm with you on that one.
I believe some of that stuff too, like some of the stuff that happened in history that they said that we did and we were the only ones to do it and that it happened that way. And I keep on telling people at school, like, no, they're just fabricating it and they're lying. And they're like, no, they're not. And I'm like, yes, they are. Because if it really happened, you have to think how much technology has gotten better and all that stuff. And unless they had stuff that was invented before its time, there's no way that could happen unless you spent a bunch of taxpayers' money to have it built and you just lied to us about it.
Well, with the whole, God, I'm gonna be seen as a fucking conspiracy theorist, but I don't give a shit. I just find these rabbit holes fun as fuck, whether they're true or not.
Yeah, we're not saying it's true. I'm speculating on certain aspects of what I believe. I don't.
My biggest
I'm not going
question.
to say we didn't actually go to the moon somehow. I just am saying that the photography, for everything I know, can't be real.
Well, here's my biggest two things. Okay, I understand what the geopolitical. Well, three things. I understand what the geopolitical things are going on with the USSR, and we're in the race, basically bankrupt them. I've been a part of fucking psyops that they've done over the years. Anyway, I know that they're gonna do shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
But my thing is, okay, let's say it did happen, which I do believe we have been there at some point in time. I just don't think it was at that time.
No.
You got a couple different things. First off, how do you get through the Kepler radiation belt? That's a big how the fuck, especially at that time with the technology we had. It doesn't seem feasible.
Possible.
And
without
why the
you,
fuck haven't we gone back?
Well, this is the Schrodinger's cat moon landing, because I say we haven't been to the moon until we go back to the moon and prove we went to the moon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
You know, it's like, okay, you know, maybe we went there. I'm willing to believe that in the possibility. I'm often like the X-Files Mulder. I want to believe the truth is out there.
Yes,
but I just want to be able to ask the questions that might say, well, maybe we didn't, and now where do we go from there? What if?
And how do we prove that we did if it did happen?
See, that so I have a different mindset, and you were saying about fucking like Joe Rogan, which I find him funny and fun to watch, to be honest. But that's the kind of mindset I have. Is like, okay, well, we're told we did this. Okay, fine. But is there a possibility we didn't? And let's have some fun with this.
Exactly.
How about this one? The term Indian for Native Americans, as we'd call it today. And you were taught in school, I'm sure, that's because Christopher Columbus was looking for India, East India. However, India wasn't called India back then; it was called Hindustan.
Right.
So that's not why Indians are called Indian. It has a completely different meaning.
Correct.
Yeah. So, but there's, I mean, you could go into so many areas. I think that there's a new conspiracy theory, the mud flood thing, and I think that if you heard of the mud flood,
you
have. Okay.
No.
Well, I'm not going to go into it deep, but you know, it's something that I feel.
Give a brief overview for people that might be listening that don't know.
Yeah, the mud flood is this theory that all these buildings that were built in the late 1800s in America, these ornate buildings, that they were already here, and it was the Empire of Tartaria that built them and that was here already, and it's an interesting theory. However, I've seen plenty of places where they're showing, oh, this building like that. I've seen them do Fort Worth, and they go, look at the Fort Worth courthouse. There's no way we didn't build that. I go, well, wait a minute. I'm from Fort Worth. We had another courthouse, and then we built this one. My family's a brick manufacturing family. Yeah, no, you're wrong. However, when you get into the maps and the understanding of how we used to call things, there was a time, if you go back into the 1800s, and you were learning about the regions of Mongolia and Russia and China, what would come up in the book is Tartaria. This all called the same thing. And so the names we use for these regions and how we lump things together, well, we used to lump it together, has changed. And I think there's and the maps showed things at times on it that maybe were not there. And so I think there's a confusion with some people, and they try to read too much into it. However, I do think there's some interesting aspects of things like the buildings from the Chicago World's Fair, where it just seems odd that these buildings were built so well and then just torn down. So I do muse some questions, but overall, I think the mud flood is a big misunderstanding.
I think so too, and honestly, but it's one of those fun things. Like the majority of us are like, yeah, no, that's total bullshit. But this is fun. Let's see what kind of wacky shit people can come up with.
Oh,
you know,
they come up
like questioning things. It gives me hope that maybe what we're all saying isn't as right, and maybe people aren't as truthful as everyone gives them credit for and think that they know everything. Because I'm sick of saying just because they did more school than me and have better jobs than me that they know fucking more than me. So what? That they went to 12 years or 8 years of school doesn't mean they're fucking rocket scientists. You know?
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that they know more. It just means our knowledge is different and we learn and we have different theories to test.
Right. See, and just for the sake of clarifying, like for me personally, there's a lot of shit that I jump down the rabbit hole that I'm like, this is bullshit, but it's fun.
Yeah.
Like it's. I'm not going into it like, you know. It's fun to me. I've seen enough crazy shit in my life that I know that we don't know everything. So for me, it's like, and I do this all day at work. I listen to different podcasts, and some of them are fucking complete nut jobs, and it's pretty clear. But it's fun.
Yeah, it is.
It is fun to hear people talk about that stuff.
They're fun. They are. I enjoy whether I'm believing it's true or whether I'm just listening to someone talk about it. I still enjoy hearing people go flat. I still enjoy listening to flat earthers trying to make sense, make that work. And when you know more than they do, oftentimes it's funny to me. It's the difference of knowledge overall.
Right.
And it's like I was saying on the mud flood. There's these little bits of knowledge and history that people just aren't aware of. Like I was saying, like India being Hindustan.
Right.
If you don't know it, then you're going to imagine it completely different in your mind because that's all you can do. We're so different by the generations and how we are. Even though we're the same, we're still the same humans, but we're changing.
We're constantly evolving and getting.
I'll put the example of the curse, the swearing. Now I can swear like a sailor. My mother swore like a sailor.
I do swear like a fucking sailor.
Oh no,
I'm a Marine.
My mother swore like a sailor, but I'm old enough to be from a generation that's really good at turning it all off in a situation like now. But I don't see.
Oh, I can turn it off and not swear in front of people.
Right. but the decision to turn it off seems different between the different generations because of how we were it's because of how we were raised to be. That's all it is. It's how much looser a generation is about things versus.
Well, now you have fucking Congress people fucking swearing and shit on the floor.
I mean,
it's what the hell?
I grew up in an age where
Congress?
We put on.
Yeah.
I grew up in a world where to fly on a plane, to go out to dinner, we put on a coat.
You wore a suit. Yeah. You put on a fucking suit. Yeah.
We put on a coat and tie. And it's a completely different world because that's the way we did it back then.
Yeah, that was just the social norm. It was. You're presenting.
Oh, I had to wear bloomers.
Yeah, my dad. And my dad's generation wore a coat and tie almost all the time, unless they were working out in the yard or doing something. If they went out in public, they had a coat and tie on usually, unless were on vacation at the beach or certain situations, then they'd have a different dress code. But for the most part, if my dad was in the city and going outside, they wore suit and tie.
Right.
Ooh, like the mobsters.
Yeah, well, you see, my little image has this little fedora on. I used to work suit and tie all the time. I don't want to deal with it anymore, but there are times when the reason I don't wear a coat and tie anymore is because nobody else wears it. So if I go
Right.
out
So now you're a standout
on,
if you do.
I feel so out of place. But
Well,
I
hey,
do
you
it.
might make a fashion trend come back, like with
That
those
shit ain't.
parachute pants
You
or
got
those
Congress people
bell-bottom
showing up in
pants.
fucking. You got Congress people showing up in shorts and a sweatshirt. That
That's,
it's not gonna happen.
what's his name? Why can't I'm forgetting his name?
Fetterman.
Fetterman. Yeah. He's
Well,
kind of gotten interesting since he had that stroke and he's working through the computer and
Mhm.
he's changing some anyway.
but what about those bell-bottom pants and those parachute pants that used to be not popular, but now they're coming around?
I never had the parachute pants. I certainly had bell bottoms when
Yeah, I mean, fashion
I grew up in the set.
back and
I was a
forth, but
teenager. You go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, you're fine. We become a society of leisure instead of conformitality, like conformitation. So what I mean by that is like, obviously you probably don't know, Cash, but wearing a suit fucking sucks. You have like no movement control. It's hot, it's heavy, it sucks. But that's just what we did. And as far as seeing that make a comeback, I doubt it. I really do.
Coat and tie. The main reason I don't like the tie is why would you want to wear a noose around your neck? It's
Right.
basically a noose. Anybody with a tie
Well, I
on
could make
could
a
be
joke
hurt
out of it
really quickly.
that could make it pretty fun to wear.
What?
It makes it more entertaining in the bedroom.
Maybe. I don't. Yeah. See, this is where I get old. I'm just afraid I get old fashioned sometimes about conversation.
Well,
I'm from it. This is what I'm trying to say is I'm from a different age. I'm from the age of protocol, mixed cut. I grew up with a country club. We had the place where we ate was called the Mixed Couples because that was the place where mixed couples went. Then there was the
right.
back with the guys. The guys had the 19th hole, and we'd go there and drink and talk anything we wanted. Then the ladies had their areas where they went and played bridge, and that's where the women went and talked. And then the mixed couples was when we all got together and we didn't talk about certain things. We didn't say certain things. It's like, I can't act that way. There's a lady present. This is the way we were. If I was having dinner when I was, say, 18 at this club and a woman came up to the table, I would have to stand up. And
Right.
and would have to, if she was going to sit down, I would have to pull the chair. Someone would have to pull the chair out.
Well,
These were
that's just
old
etiquette.
school protocol etiquette that we don't do anymore. Is it
Right.
right that we don't do it anymore? I don't know.
Well, some people say that the newer generation kids need to spend a day with the older generation and know how tough y'all had it and to learn some damn manners because they say that we just spoiled brats.
Well, there's probably
you,
some truth to that, but
there
yes.
is. There's some aspects, and like I understand because like with okay for me, like regarding the suit and tie shit, for me, I can understand the stepping away from that, mostly because of just how my brain works. When I was in the military and stuff, most people know, but I was a force reconnaissance sniper. So a lot of what I had to do was threat assessment. So for threat assessing, it's determining body language, it's determining weaknesses. I do it to this day. I'll walk into Walmart and literally my brain is thinking the entire time, what's the most effective way to kill? So I'm looking at body. I'm looking at body language. I'm looking at who would be the biggest threats. If somebody's wearing a tie, like you said, that's a fucking noose. That's a great handhold. Shit like that's how my brain operates, is what's the most effective and who's the threat. So like even when I served and shit, it's sad to even say, but the good looking women were more likely to be threats. Boys, kids were more likely to be threats because those are things that as a societal norm would fly underneath the radar. Things that you would think, oh, it's a woman, they're not going to be a threat. Oh, it's a kid, they're just playing around. Those are threats. But then you have to start looking, okay, well, they're wearing a jacket and it's 103 degrees out here. What's up with that? And then it starts. So for me, like, I understand some of the social norms going away, like with the suit and tie thing, because it's just not practical.
Yeah.
It's a threat.
Yeah.
As far as the whole mannerism thing and everything, I think a lot of it is because of social media. Social media has had such a big impact on separating from physical human values and interactions that it's diverted us more into self-deprecation, to where it's all about me instead of a community feel. You know what I mean? So I think a lot of it went away with that, and COVID definitely didn't help. Or fucking, you didn't have any social interactions for a long time.
Yeah.
I think we need to. Personally, I would like to see us get back into that.
They also say that our generation is the least like successful generation out of any generation, because you guys know the idea of work and all that stuff, and we basically know the idea of sitting on our asses, they say, and living in our parents' basement and living with our parents forever.
It's true.
In a way, I'm from the start of the generation that got you to this place. I mean, we were the ones that started to break away. I mean, when I say I was used to wearing a suit and I grew up with that, I also grew up with my friends and I breaking away from that way of being. So when we were off away from everybody else, we wore jeans and concert t-shirts and whatever we wore. We dressed like the bell bottoms. We went to school like that. We were changing things. And of course, we were smoking weed and doing all these things in a way that was starting to make it more beginning of normalizing it where it had been hidden before. And it just, all this change and all these things changed. And now we've gone from generations where you could look at the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, and that each of those generations has a distinct style. Somewhere between 90s and 2000s, you can't really tell the style differences much.
You know what I personally believe that is?
What?
The internet.
The
internet.
Yeah, the internet. The internet changed everything. Yeah.
I don't know anyone in my school who does not have a phone. Like, all the kids nowadays have a phone. Like, when I was in school, like, there was like maybe like 4 or 5 kids that had phones when I was growing up in elementary, and I was born in 2001. So there was maybe 4 or 5 kids, and I was like one of those 5 kids that had the first phones. Like, the first ever, I got my first iPhone when I was like in 3rd grade.
Me and Steppenwolf still remember the brick.
The brick.
Wait, what's the brick?
The brick. It's a big phone.
When they first came out, it was a cell phone, quote unquote, that you plugged into your car that basically had a fucking briefcase, and then you were holding like a brick by your face to be able to make a call.
What year were you born?
Me?
Yeah.
Take a guess.
80. Let's see. 70 something or 80? 70s to 80s. I don't know.
74.
74. Okay. I thought
my mom was born in 1970.
Yeah. Okay, so that makes sense, because I thought you were in the range of. I was trying to get to it, but I was thinking you were in the, from what we were talking about, that you were about 10 to 12. You're the 10-year range from me. I was born in 1962.
Yeah. So I think you got 12 years. Yeah, you got 12 years on me.
Yeah.
My mom, and then my other mom was born in 1964. She's at the end of the baby boomers.
The very first movie my parents took me to see when I was about 6 or 7, was 2001: Space Odyssey.
No shit.
That's the first I was taken to, and I loved it. And it's funny though, nothing in that movie was disturbing to me except for one thing, and it's just not the thing most people, even I, would think. Why was that disturbing to me? None of this stuff like open the pod bay door. That wasn't the disturbing part. None of the crazy effects or what happened to the guy.
Is that telecom?
I told you, yeah, the most disturbing thing to me was the conversation the guy has with his daughter where it's a video call. And I just looked at that and went, oh my God, I can't, that's horrible. I just, something about that really bothered me. And to this day.
So did they have color back then?
What do you mean color? Like colored clothes and shit?
Colored TVs?
No.
Yes. No.
Well, I mean, you had the colors started coming around with the Vietnam War. For that, it was very rare. You'd have a few animations that would have color and shit, but it was rare.
Well, color starts much earlier than people think. However, when I was a kid, you know, in the 50s, it was black and white, and starting as you get into the mid 60s, you start to see some color TV start to come in.
Right.
But it was pretty much, that was very expensive. And so that's why, like Lost in Space in 66, 67, 68, the first year was black and white. And then they went, oh, well, this is good. We'll spring for more money. So it went to color. And there's a lot of sitcoms and shows in that age that started in black and white. And
like Beverly Hillbillies and Three Stooges.
Beverly Hillbillies, yeah. The Three Stooges is way before color.
No,
well, it's not
you don't
color, but Three Stooges was film for the movie.
She doesn't even understand. Like a massive TV. We had tube TVs then. A massive TV was like a 22-inch screen that would weigh 300 fucking pounds.
Yes.
Oh, I have a 70-inch TV.
Yeah, which weighs fucking maybe
different.
40 pounds.
But
you would have carts to wheel them around. They're that heavy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's what, like, when my dad brought the TV in, it was a black and white TV, so I could watch the moon landing. I didn't have a TV in my room, but he set this TV, he reeled this little TV in that was a black and white TV, and I watched the moon landing on it, and that was fine. But my first TV that I was given for my room was 1975. It was a color TV. And we had a color TV downstairs. So I didn't grow up in a household with black and white and made the transition from my memory. It was very common to see black and white TV still when I was a kid, but we had enough money to where we could afford the color TV.
See, for me, it wasn't. I grew up poor as fuck. So for me, like even in the 70s, we still had fucking black and white TVs.
Yeah, that's how my mom grew up. She grew up poor and had black and white TV and only had 2 channels.
Yeah.
And then her little brother ordered MTV and our mom started paying like I think $100 for it.
It wouldn't have been that much back then, but yeah, the equivalent to this day probably. Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. It's an unusual perspective because I grew up in the absolute richest neighborhood in Fort Worth, on a street that when I was a teenager, if I showed the police my driver's license, as soon as they looked at it and saw 601 Rivercrest, they basically just hand it back to me and go, "Let's go, kid, just get out of here." Because however, my family was a brick manufacturing family. We struggled at times to stay in that house and in that neighborhood. The friends of mine and kids around me next door, they had oil. They were gushing money. And so I was not, my mother would always go, we're very upper middle class. So that's what she would say. We have money. We're good. We're okay. We're doing good. But we don't have that oil money. We don't have this. And yeah, my dad was way more conservative about things than I would ride my bike down the street, and a friend got a new bike, and he'd start telling me how I'd be chastised for not having the newest stuff because I never had the newest stuff. But we were on that street, and I could go to the country club.
But now it's hard to even get kids to go outside.
But like my friend would, I had friends on that block who would never go through something like this. When I was about 12, 13 or so, we went shopping, got a new coat, and they were painting the garage, and I didn't realize it, and I leaned up against again and got this yellow stripe down my back of my jacket, and I went to my mom and said, and this was when the recession was on, so our income was cut severely down at that time. I went back and said, Mom, I'm sorry, I ruined this coat. I'm going to need a new one. She said, nope, you're stuck with that. And I was, and I had to wear it. Kids down the street, that happened to them. They had multiple, they had plenty, they had whatever they wanted at times. But
yeah, I never had that experience. Yeah. I never had any of those experiences. I pretty much am from the generation where I pretty much got everything I wanted.
Yeah.
See, so even for me, like, because that was the way I was raised, like, dude, I'm still wearing fucking pants that I had 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean,
you're like my mom. My mom is conservative about her money, and I would say we're upper middle class, but she would just say, no, we're middle class, and you have to divide two people's income in half.
Right. But I mean, like, what he's basically getting at is like we grew up to where everything was of value. Like the clothes you wore, the shoes you wore, you'd wear the motherfuckers until you had no soles left. And then probably still wear them for a couple weeks till you got new ones. I mean, and I'm still that way to this day, to be honest. Actually, it kind of pisses me off because my work clothes finally were getting fucked up. And so I I was so mad. I went and bought 5 pairs, and the quality is just garbage now. Fucking, they each lasted 1 day. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's that damn Chinese shit. No offense.
No,
well, I just know that I was lucky to be able to be where I was, but my dad, we didn't always have as much money as everybody else around, and yeah, my dad was very conservative. There were a lot of things I didn't get that my contemporaries around me got, that I had to go out and earn it. My dad made me go work, is what my dad did.
Oh yeah.
Because
you want something, go rake some fucking neighbors' lawns.
And that's what.
My mom's dad actually built like this storage unit, but before they built it, he had them digging it out each day, and that's what they did for chores and for work money, and that's what they did. They did that every single day until it was fully built.
Right. I got a funny story. The first way I had to make money was the house I had, grew up in, had the golf course for the country club across the street. So I could just walk across the street, and that was the golf course. So I would set my lemonade stand up there, and the rich golf come by and buy lemonade from me. Well, from the get-go, what happened was one day, one of the golfers came by and said, "Hey, kid, you wouldn't have anything stronger to put in this?" And I had just, without batting an eye, went, "I'll be right back." And I went, and I'm like 8 years old, went and ran to my dad's liquor cabinet, poured some bourbon in a jar, came back and poured it in his lemonade, and got a great tip. and, and we're making a script about this type of story. Actually,
We
right
used to be
now.
able to do shit like that, though.
Yeah,
We used to be able to do shit like that.
Yeah, the working title for this one is called Billy Bartender.
Well, fuck. I mean, even when me and you were kids, like we would go down to the fucking store to grab liquor for our parents or whatever, and they didn't care. It's like, oh, this is for my mom, or this is for my dad. Oh, okay, here you go.
Yeah, no,
you can't do that shit no more.
Yeah, I used to go run. My mother would. We would go to the grocery store, and I could be 10 or so, and my mother would go, "Oh, here, run into Koski's and get a bottle of scotch," and she'd be in the car, and I'd run into the liquor store part of this grocery store that was separate, and go, I need a bottle of scotch for my mom.
Lucky, I can't even do that without getting carded.
They would know, not only, they would know who I was, and they go, "Oh, that's Mrs. Bennett. She wants some Johnny Walker Red for her husband."
Yep. That's how it was.
And on top of that, it was charged. They had a little charge account, so they would, charge it. And that was really wild.
Why can't it go back to that way where kids could buy that stuff? That would be cool.
Because of the societal breakdown, because now the kids are doing it for themselves instead of their fucking parents. That's what happened.
Yeah.
Yes, but are they afraid that we will drink it and not give the schnapps to our parents?
Yeah.
Well, most likely I would drink it and not give it to them.
Well, there you go. That's your answer.
Well, I drank it some. I just didn't drink it. I just didn't drink it that. I just didn't drink it that much. I do remember my dad was very. My dad didn't really like working in the city. He'd rather be at the ranch, and he would come home angry and start drinking. And I'd be sitting down in the den, and I'd hear him come down the steps. He wasn't this way every night, but often he was. And he'd be grumbling. As he's watching whatever, he'd come down, he'd pour these 3-shot on the rocks scotches. And I'd go in and look at I'd watch how far down it was going, and then
fill it up with water.
And well, no, but I just started come down and get a shot, and I'd go, I'll pour half a shot for myself. And I'd go drink that. That's it. I wouldn't like I wasn't trying to get drunk. I was just like, well, let me have a little.
Let me try this shit out.
Yeah, but I'd make myself like half ounce of it and drink it, but I'd put it in water and everything.
Right.
But the other thing was when I was growing up, starting probably around age 8 to 9, they would expect me to go make their drinks. So we'd have a party going on, and it'd be like, oh, your aunt wants another drink. She's having a sherry, and it'd be like, so and so's having this, and it's like, okay, I got the orders. Let me go. So
wait, they did that?
Oh yeah,
damn right.
Yeah,
they didn't have caterers back then.
Well, we might sometimes.
Not at your house.
This was just you had people over at the house, and someone drank, and
yeah.
So
nowadays they don't trust kids to make drinks.
No, they get you. CPS would come take your kids away.
Oh yeah, you get in fucking big trouble nowadays.
Yeah, today.
But what's the difference from now and then? I don't really see the difference. You guys weren't drinking it.
You want the honest answer?
Yeah.
The country and the world's been pussified.
That's the truth.
I guess so. I guess it has been turned into a big cat.
I mean, it's honest. It used to be, okay, you want to make a dumb decision, you're going to get fucking dumb results. Now it's, oh no, we got to protect these dumb people, so we got to put all these laws and regulations in place to make them so they can't do dumb things when they're still going to do dumb fucking things. And it pussified the world. Really, it did.
Yeah. I believe in the concept of let's try and be safe and have safety, but I think, but beyond that, we've gone
Sure,
forward.
but that should be
Yeah,
taught by your
this is
parents,
my mom's
not the
Right,
motto.
government.
right.
And I actually learned some things the hard way because
Yeah,
my mom told me not to put my hand on the hot burner of the oven of the stove and said it will burn me. Well, I had to learn the hard way by putting
yep.
my hand on it. And she said, and when I cried and started wailing at 5 years old,
That's what you
and
fucking
now
get.
didn't I tell you that was going to happen? See,
Hmm.
don't be stupid. Now you learn.
What state are you in?
Michigan.
Michigan, and you're from Michigan.
Yep.
Now, I grew up in Texas. This is a whole nother world.
I didn't grow up in Michigan. I'm just here now.
Oh yeah, well, you were from California. That's right.
Yeah, California, then Nevada, Oklahoma, Idaho. I've been all over the motherfucking place.
Yeah, because when I was a kid, in Texas we had the colored water fountain. We had the whites only and all that stuff going on, and
Right.
I would drive my mother crazy because I knew it would upset her. And so just to have fun, I would always drink out of the colored. I thought it was stupid, see, so I would go drink out of the colored water fountain and she would just have a fit. And I was always throwing that stuff in her face. And that went away really quickly. And, I saw that as a little kid.
Right.
It
Which
did not take
that
very
was
much for it to go
that was
south.
a good change. Like, I'm not going to shit on that. That was a good
Oh,
change.
no, that was a very good change. That stuff needed it big time. But
absolutely, because I know I wouldn't have some of my friends that I have, and I wouldn't be able to be in school with them.
Right.
I think Texas was a little different. You get into the deep South, I think the racism gets a lot deeper than it was in Texas.
Not anymore. Not anymore. It's actually the exact opposite now.
Well, I mean,
yeah, I've been in the deep South, and
was,
everyone's nice to me and friendly.
I'm talking about when I was growing up.
Right. Yeah, when we were growing up, yeah, it was fucking heavy.
I'm not trying to say Texas wasn't racist also as the South was, but the southern states were more fanatically racist.
Oh yeah.
In Mississippi, Alabama, those were states that were severely separate. Where I grew up.
Wait a minute, my mom's grandma grew up in Mississippi and Alabama.
Yeah.
Before that time, and she said it wasn't that bad being a kid, but I guess she was just sugarcoating it for me.
She was, and
she was definitely sugarcoating it because it was bad.
Well, I know a lot. I have a good friend from Mississippi that not passed away, but he would always downplay that, and I would just look at him and go, "Come on, Miles, you're being stupid," And he just like, whatever. We'd have that argument, but it's a different perspective. If you an example of this with Texas, which I think is different than some of the southern states, was if you see the movie about LBJ with Woody Harrelson in it.
Mm-hmm.
There's that moment where the other Southern guy he's having dinner with, where they're trying to argue over the point of the civil rights bill, and he insults the maid, and the LBJ character is treating her like, that's family, even though she's black and she can't do even though there's a racism there was a different attitude, and that was definitely growing up.
Like where you mess with people's kin.
You did not. The black maids that we had growing up were in my family, almost a part of the family, even though there was a racism divide between us. I had to, it wasn't the same as the situations I saw when I would go to Mississippi and Alabama and see the way there was just a difference I noticed. But
it was like they were. It was like they were almost like family.
In no way am I going to downplay the racism. It's just it's just minute levels of how bad it was, and that's all really good that it's gone away.
Yeah, no, that's
There's
it's
no
great.
reason to have it.
It's great that it got, and I'm probably going to get a lot of shit for this too. It's great that it's gone away. Absolutely, I think
I
racism is
say it's great that
absolutely,
it's gone away, that people see each other as
Well,
just people,
yeah.
because we're all just
Well,
people in this world.
my
Race,
philosophy is we all bleed red. We're all the same people.
yeah,
There's no problem with that.
Exactly.
Now, here's where my issue is, which is where I'm going to get a lot of shit. Is after we made everybody equal, we went far. We started making it where, reformations and all that shit and all this other crap that's like, no, look, we're all equal. We understand we made a fuck up. Like, let's move forward from there and keep it that way instead of all this shit that we have going on now that is it's gone wild.
yeah. Well, that's another aspect of it. But yes, I do agree with what you're. I agree. I'm not for the DEI or affirmative. I think everything is on merit. I
Right.
do
What does
see
that mean?
aspects where this is once again getting into a longer, complicated conversation. But to sum it up more is what I'm saying is I'm stating the reality that I grew up with, which I
Right.
did not like as a kid. I didn't like it as a kid. I don't like it now. But when
Oh,
we start talking
I
about,
rebelled against my fucking parents. I got the shit beat out of me because I they were
yeah,
racist as fuck,
well,
and
my dad was
I made me a black girlfriend. That was a big no no.
yeah, that would have been, my mother would have flipped out on that one. Uh, yeah, my mother was extremely
Well,
bad. But I would throw it in their face all the time because I don't know, why were we different? I mean, most of my friends growing up were definitely all going against the racism we were seeing, and I guess we were just being taught different in schools. I remember my mother pulled me out of a school because I had a black teacher, uh, which was stupid. She was a good teacher. I didn't see any problem with that teacher, but she was a racist. Now my dad wasn't. He didn't care. He really was very not caring about that. But then as we're moving forward now and talking about, uh, we don't need to give someone who isn't qualified for a job because they're a certain color any more than we need. Now you look at what's happened to the Asian students who are suddenly not being able to get into schools because they just don't fall into the right criteria of this affirmative action or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
It's DEI or whatever.
I'm
Everything should
glad that shit's going away. I'm glad that shit's going
everything
away,
should
man.
be about how well you can perform and do your job, and if you're
Yeah.
qualified to do your job.
exactly. Nothing should be about race or
The only
gender or anything. It should be how well you do your
yeah.
job. And if you can't do your job, then you shouldn't be hired to do that job. Point simple.
Exactly.
The caveat I have to this would be, and there are situations where there's disparity in the education systems for poor to rich and black to white or other colors. So there's still problems that we haven't solved in this whole system.
Yes,
No,
but let me throw something back at you. What's the education system actually doing these days?
Well, the education system is not doing much at all anymore.
Exactly. I mean, you can get higher paid jobs and better jobs,
Yeah,
not ever going to college at
yeah.
all. I mean,
Well,
I didn't go
really
to
true.
college.
I think there's a lot of
Yeah,
situations
that's
where people.
absolutely
But
true.
is there a gray lining to this? Do you have to have a high school diploma and do that basically 12 years of school and complete that in order to get a high paying job?
No, that's not true at all. Because I mean, frankly, for what I do, I have my own business. I've made it through life and shit. I never went to college. I do have a high school diploma, but frankly, I don't need one. I did not
Yeah,
need a high school diploma to do what I do. and I'm not
there's
bragging
a
about myself
reason
or
why
anything, but
I
I do
don't
quite
have a high
well.
school diploma, but I'm not going to get into that.
But here's the change that has happened. What happened is education itself became monopolized. It became a business on its own, which then is putting people in so much debt. And they're like, "Oh, you have to go to college. You have to go to college." And it's like, no, you don't. There is obviously some specified fields that you do, such as medical and shit like
Doctor.
that, because yeah, you gotta be able to fucking know the difference between
Directions
a
and
gallbladder and a kidney. Yeah,
yeah.
so there is fields that, yes, there is some schooling that's needed. I'm not shitting completely on that. But then you have all these new fucking fields that they have, like transgender identity across the world shit. It's like, what fucking use is that? What are you going to make a career out of that? And the problem with it is it became a monopolized thing. Instead of actually giving education, it now just became a business. They want your money.
Yeah.
They want to fucking fill your head with bullshit, and you're not getting anything out of it. Where
No.
where now, honestly, because I work in trades, I own construction companies, housing companies. We do flips, and yada yada yada. I'm not going to go into all that, but like trades now, there's a lot of money in learning a trade,
Yeah,
and
there is. That's why my mom works at. She started from the bottom of GM as a security guard. And now
mhm,
she's like in the UAW and she negotiates contracts and fair rights for
right,
workers and all that stuff where they don't have to work so many hours, but they can still make good money to support their families and spend time with their kids and not work so many hours.
right. Well, UAW, that's a whole world on its own, which I'm not going to get into that because that'll be like an hour conversation.
Yeah,
But
we keep running into areas. I mean, I would hate someone to misunderstand some things I say, but I'm willing to say what I believe, what I see, my past. I'm
well,
not someone
I,
who's
I,
bold that.
I think that we can all agree, which we've been discussing, that some of the things in the past that happened, yes, they absolutely sucked. But we're all equal. We're all wanting to see merit based. You get the work, you get the job because of what you can do, what you personally can do, not
Yeah.
because diversity hire or what the fuck ever. So we all agree on that point. Like
Yeah.
there's no argument on that, which I think is something that should be very logical to anybody that's listening to this or anything like that. That
Oh yeah.
it's a logical position.
I would like to see a better education system, and I don't.
Oh, me too.
And whatever,
Me
and
too.
in that better system, to educate from the beginning. I want to see. I would like to see a world where the color of your skin and all this stuff is not the factor. It's
It shouldn't.
how
Yeah, it shouldn't
well you
fucking
do the
matter.
job.
It's your intelligent level that is a factor.
The real way to get away from racism, that is the core racism that I grew up with, is for everybody to stop seeing the color.
Yeah, exactly. No,
Seeing,
you're
But
you're
how
you're
do you make
100%
people
correct.
stop doing that? Some people don't want to stop seeing it.
no,
So
they
it's
don't, because they want to keep selling. People make money.
You you
There's certain
know
people make money off
you,
keeping everybody divided.
you
yeah.
know you know how to stop that. And actually, this goes in a little bit of politics, which I'll try not to go too far. You know how to make that stop happening.
Well, I might, but I'd like to hear what
Vote.
you have to say.
Stop making it an issue.
Right.
Every time you see these news, oh, black kid stabs white kid, or white kid fucking kills black. Stop all that. Just stop including color in jack shit. That's how
Yeah.
you
It
stop it.
is a kid did something wrong.
Yes.
Point
Yeah.
simple.
That's how you
Right.
stop it. All this media divulging bull crap that we got, stop. Just stop adding color,
Basically, them
period.
like I think they're trying to get stories to sell, and if they aren't exciting and dramatized, like it's a life or death situation, they're not going to make money, and they're out of their
Well,
fucking jobs.
Well, and that's actually a really interesting point, which I'm actually excited for, is the fact that the media has always been like that, to where it's, oh, you get the scoop, write a story, you make money, you get Pulitzers, blah, 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 all that shit. Now we're turning away from that to where podcasts and shit like that are actually the source of news. And I think that's fucking great, because then it's more long form, it's more informative, it's more open, and it's not
less
monetized.
likely to like jump the gun. It's more likely
Right.
to discuss it in a calm and peaceful manner instead of jumping the gun and getting everyone riled up and making people
Right.
scared.
Exactly. Like the mainstream media is basically fucking dead, which I think is great, personally.
Well,
I mean, both left winging Democrat papers and Republican papers alike, or news outlets, they're dead,
yeah.
which I think is good.
I still know a lot of people that just have not gone to YouTube's for listening and getting their information.
I wouldn't necessarily go to YouTube, even though I'm on
Well,
it.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, and I know
Start
some
saying,
people
I
still
say
get
that, and this is, what else do I say? It's, we get in it. We get every. This is the situation where we get hung up on the name. You start saying YouTube. Well, it could be Rumble. It could be all these different places, but it is
Right.
on. It's on the internet.
Yeah.
We're finding it on the internet and not on NBC, ABC,
Right.
Fox.
Well, and that's an interesting point, because like when me and you grew up, what did you have? You had NBC, ABC. What was the other one? I forget. We didn't have Fox until like,
CBS,
yeah,
NBC,
PBS.
ABC, CBS.
Yeah, and then we had
Those are
Fox
the
that
three
came out.
major.
When did the Fox came out in like late 80s, early
Yeah,
90s, something like
Fox is
that?
from the 80s, I think. Yeah, about the 80s.
Yeah.
CNN.
CNN
Yes, we had
from
CNN.
the
Yes.
80s. That's from the 80s.
Yeah.
The Clinton
But
News Network.
yeah, but yeah, pretty much. But that was the new. That's what we had for news. We didn't have everything that we have now, to where I enjoy the shift, honestly, because it's more open. It's more access to information that honestly people didn't have before, and now we do. And so I like that shift away from mainstream media fucking rag dolls that we got going on now. I like that shift,
The only thing I
personally.
don't like about it is there's a lot of people who I listen to who have good information. They're, might be where I get my information from a lot of times, but they take so long to get to the points. And there's a lot of reasons why they may do that. Sometimes they're doing it because in the very beginning, they're trying to talk a bunch of BS to get past the algorithms and stuff.
Right.
So there's a lot of different reasons they do it, but I would say if they suddenly started becoming all professionalized and sounding like the past, would they also start making the same mistakes? I
Yes,
don't know.
yeah. I don't like that, like with how it was in the past, because honestly, like, I mean, we're living in the world now where sound bites are everything.
Yeah.
You can take a 2-hour conversation like this and turn it into a soundbite of, well, he said this, so he must be a racist, when without having the entire rest of the conversation. But I like
You
that.
can turn it into something bad.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, yeah.
like I'm sure
You can
there's going
turn
to
it
be
into
remake.
something that is like he's a racist, he's against people,
Yeah,
he
I,
hates certain people and all that stuff.
I'm
I'm
a wolf.
sure.
I'm a wolf. I'm gonna just eat everybody.
Well, it's even like with this podcast. I'm sure there's going to be sound bites that I'll find tomorrow, being like, "Oh, he's a racist. He said this." But the great thing is unlike the past where we had very few ways to be able to validate something, now it's all out there. So if you
Yeah.
see a soundbite like that, you go, "Did that really happen?" Then you go listen to the whole thing and go, "No, they're fucking full of shit." you know. So it's good in ways. Like you said, yeah. Some of them some people they're just trying to make content, so they fucking bullshit you, and then they finally get to the fucking point, which is annoying as fuck. But in other ways, it also lets you get to know, like for instance, like with this podcast, it lets you be able to get to know the person that's talking on a personal level, which is why, like, even if you take this last election, one of the things that, especially with the young adults, with JD Vance and Trump, that they did is they went out and did these kind of long form conversations and stuff to just get to know the person, which connects with a lot of the younger generation of like, all right, this motherfucker ain't so bad. You know, he's saying the right things. He's explaining himself, which, like with Joe Rogan, honestly, having them both on really helped the election.
Yes. Of course, Biden didn't say a word.
No, he ran his campaign from the fucking basement.
Yeah.
I'm saying, like, if people would get out and be more connective to people, there will be less to bitch about, and less like, oh yeah, like how this is what I see all the time on breaking news, and I don't pay attention to it, but my friends do, and it's like Republicans are taking over this and da da da, and I'm like, how is actually now? Did you hear it on the news where you didn't hear the whole thing and you just heard a snippet of it? So you have to go back and do your research and find the full clip and actually really pay attention and break it down before you can jump to conclusions. And it just pisses me off. And I say, I don't talk politics because I'm like, look, if you're just going to believe that snippet, then your head's in the fucking gutter.
Yeah.
Are you sure you're not conservative?
No.
I know,
I'm not.
with you.
I'm just being honest. Your head's in the fucking gutter.
Right.
If you're just gonna believe that snippet, I need more information and more people talking than just believing one fucking snippet.
I know. I fuck with you because everything you're saying is like exactly what conservatives believe, which I know you're not on that side, but it's just fucking it's humorous.
I've always been independent. However, I would say when I was younger, I was friends with Jim Wright. You're old enough to remember who Jim Wright was. So Jim Wright, a Democratic former Speaker of the House, and this is a friend of mine. He was a Democrat. Of course, that's not the same type of Democrat as you have now. However, I voted for him all the time, but he was a friend, so I knew the family, and throughout my life, I found myself voting both ways, and in retrospect, I tend to think my mistakes were more often that I voted Democrat. However, I had reasons at the time, and when Trump came in, and this is the point I'm going to try and make. When Trump came in, I didn't dislike him because he was Republican or anything like that. I'd seen him as being a Democrat before.
He was.
I didn't like him because he was from New York City. I'm from Texas. He's from New York. I didn't like that. I didn't like the way he came across. I didn't like anyone at the time. At that point, I was going, it's all falling apart. This is just nothing.
Luckily, I wasn't old enough to vote then. So it was kind of like I got a free pass.
Then I voted. My last. I had two reluctant votes. The most reluctant votes I did was I voted for Clinton when I hated Clinton, but it was like I'm voting for the lesser evil of the evils.
Right.
What am I going to do? I don't like any of this. Okay, I don't trust Trump. I don't know what he's going to do. This is a weird guy. Now, then, even as I was getting ready and I did vote for Biden, I was already starting to go, is this right? I don't know about this. Maybe I should vote for Trump. But I voted for Biden, and I'd say almost within a week after voting for Biden, I was like, what the hell did I just do? And then I was suddenly like, why No. I mean, I thought to myself, hey, Hunter S. Thompson hated this guy. Come on, I like Hunter. I'm not going to, use him as my example how politics should be, but I do remember Hunter couldn't stand Biden. And yeah, there are clips of this, but then I started to watch Trump, and there's aspects of him that I don't care. It's like the policy is what I want. We've gotten, what I always really wanted was someone to go in there and gut the bureaucracy and just tear things apart because it's so bad. And unfortunately, the problem is it's gotten so bad that the cure, it's almost like we have cancer and we're going to have to give you chemo. We're going to have to all take chemotherapy for the country, and it may kill us.
See, and this is going to be radical.
Quite honestly, I think all of it's corrupt and all of it's fuck shit.
Yeah. So that actually plays right into what I'm about to say.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
I think, and this was even said in the founding fathers, the two-party system is a failing system. I do not think that we should have Democrats versus Republicans.
I absolutely agree.
I'm independent as well,
and
in that
I'm
sense.
independent as well.
I think it should be, you have a group of people that have their own ideas. They all have no labels. They don't have any of that shit. They don't have Democrat by their name or Republican or any of that shit. They have values. Which one do you click with best? And that's how it should be.
Exactly. It shouldn't be based on whether or not you're like Republican or left wing or right wing. It should just be based on who you connect with and who more pertains to your values and your morals.
Right.
That other shit should not be included into it, and it makes it impossible to deal with. And that's why the country is in so much fucking turmoil. If they got rid of that shit, the country would not be in turmoil.
Well, in spite of the fact that I have supported the parties, I've been supporting people on parties, both sides, being an independent, going back and forth at different times, picking who I thought was going to be best at the time, or at least not the worst. The bottom line of what I said for years, and I'll say it again, that I've said this for over 30 years. In my opinion, the two-party system is being used by elite powers to divide and conquer the American people, and they've done a great job at it. This is
absolutely
people against each other.
Yes, this is absolutely
us as
and making the world hate everyone and making the world more violent than what it needs to be.
And I also would like to ask both of you a question. Do you remember the last time in America there was a Democrat and a Republican who in the White House? I mean, as part of when the president was one party and the vice president was another.
JFK.
No.
Are you sure?
I don't know.
Yeah, no. The last time was Lincoln. After Lincoln, this changed. When at the time from our beginning of our country until somewhere after the Lincoln, I'd have to double check this, but the last I remember was Lincoln. So up until that administration and that election, when we voted for the president, people ran for president, and whoever got the top vote became president, and whoever got the second most votes in it became vice president. And that's why Lincoln was the president, and he was a Republican, and Andrew Johnson was a Democrat. And
so I had just looked it up. Johnson was, when he ran with JFK, he was registered as a Democrat, but before he ran with JFK, he was registered as a Republican. So a little bit of nuance there.
Right. But that's because we had tickets by that time, and
right.
I'm not exactly, I just don't. I'd have to go back and look at what came after. I'd have to go look at the next election after
Do you know what I actually said
Lincoln,
that would be
I
cool
think they
and be good? I
what?
actually said that if Kamala Harris or anyone that appeals to the Democratic side where it could get this turmoil and people to shut the fuck up was vice president, so all this social media bullshit and news bullshit would go away, so people will stop having a goddamn fit.
Hmm.
It will be like a damn binky in their mouths. Shit, a toddler will cry less.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's, and I have my reservations about like the current presidency. I know he's a smart motherfucker. I voted for him.
I did too, but
I have some reservations, and I honestly I don't like him as a person. I think that he's a little fucked up as a person, but I think with his views and what he's trying to do as the president is good, but I think it's a little bit too much of pulling a sledgehammer. Now, at the same time, maybe a sledgehammer is needed.
right. Well, that was kind of my point earlier, but I'm with you. Trump as an individual, the way he comes across, I think he's better than he was for in the big.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
he's better than what he was too.
But he's still. This is now. I hear people in person. He's great and nice, but he comes across publicly when he's out there talking to us. He does come across horribly. I admit that. I don't like that.
Right. Well,
you never really know someone unless you spend time with them. Like some people might come off as a narcissist when you hear them on TV, but they're actually really kind of not a narcissist, and that's just people's opinion of them.
Well, see, and I can reflect on that too because a lot of people like in this game and shit, like they'll do the same thing to me. They're like, "Oh, he's just a whale, an asshole whale." Blah blah. And it's like, no, because what I'm doing is I'm trying to consolidate information and state our position. So I do come across as like an asshole sometimes. Yeah.
But I can say this, and I talk to you. You're not an asshole. You're actually very kind and very chill. So for people to say you're an asshole, it's like just their opinion and fuck shit, and them trying to stir up drama.
Right. Which is, so then I have to reflect even on my own opinion of like Trump, for instance. He's running a fucking country. And he's going to have to consolidate, even though he rambles like a motherfucker, he has to try to consolidate the best he can.
Yeah.
So I get it. I get it. I don't agree with everything, obviously. But I also know it from my own personal experience that I have a lot of haters out there. I do. And it doesn't really bother me, honestly, because as long as my family knows that we're good and shit, and then like I get to know people, and then they come, they see like the help that we give and everything else like that. Like I'm good with it. I don't give a shit. Hate me all you want.
Yeah, I don't care. Well, I somewhat care about haters, but I'm starting to change that a little bit. But I'm just so sick of social media and the country saying that we're going to have World War III in America amongst the Democrats and Republican Party. Well, maybe if we weren't divided and feel like we had to choose sides, maybe that shit wouldn't fucking happen.
Right.
Well,
so,
I think there's
a quick interruption because my phone is not going to be able to handle the recording much longer than this. I'm going to stop the recording, but we're going to keep on talking.
Okay.
Folks, it's all down in the description. Huge shout out to Cash Peekaboo here and Steppenwolf. And hope y'all enjoyed this little podcast. We went all over the fucking place. It was great. And we're going to keep on going. We're going to keep on talking. But for the sake of my recording, unfortunately, I have to end it early. I don't have a computer. So thank you all for tuning in. And we'll see you in the next one. Agne, Steppenwolf, and Cash Slash Peekaboo are out. And oops, I have to actually stop the motherfucker.